Hey folks, how are you? Good evening. This a couple days before Christmas. I can't believe it. It's incredible. But I am so thankful that Ted agreed to come in and do some more stuff on spreadsheets tonight. And before we get into all that and get kicking off here, I just want you to know thank you so much, everybody that's coming out there. And I've gotten a lot of really good feedback from everybody. Really enjoying these, and that's what it's all about. It's giving some of these top contributors exposure, but as well as helping people out with certain things in these key areas of these experts. I'm going to do a quick screen share so I can share with you folks exactly what the top contributor program is. The top contributor program, basically, if you look right here, this is a showing all of the forums that you can go in. Like, for example, the one, what Google Drive help right there. This is the one that Ted's a part of with Excel sheets and everything else. I'm over the Hangouts one, or not over it, but I'm in the Hangouts one where I'm a top contributor. All these different things, you can scroll down. You can see other things, a bunch of different things in here. There's one for Blogger. There's one for, Google Map Maker, all kinds of stuff. They even still have one for Picasa. I really don't know why. No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. But here's where you come in and get your questions answered. When you click on, like if you go into the forum, and this is where you can ask questions, but this is also where you can answer questions. And we're going to get into that a little bit more in just a second. Let me come off a screen share. But I just wanted everybody to know exactly what the top contributor program is. It's people just like you and me who have a little extra time, get out there and teach and show and guide some people and help them out with some things that they have. And then Google rewards us by letting us meet every 2 years and talk to one another and all that kind of stuff. But moreover, listen, I just want to use it as a teaching and learning experience for everybody. With all that being said, let me get right to it. Ted, welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me once again. A little more hairy this time, but
that's good though. It's probably good in the winter, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I'm a Google Docs top contributor. Docs is a little bit different from some other forums because we have a bunch of different products within Google Docs. So when we say Google Docs, we're really talking about Google Docs, the word processing app by Google, then Google Sheets, and Google Slides. And there's some other few things that kind of fall into this, but those are the three main apps that we support in the Google Docs forum and that I'm a TC for. We get 90% of our questions have to do with Google Sheets. By far, there's just different types of questions you can answer, and that's what I specialize in. Also includes Google Forms, but it's kind of its own little thing, and but it's still under the Google Docs world.
So in other words, there's a lot of areas to cover just in that one category, really.
Yeah, so we have a lot of TCs, and we try to generally focus on one app that is kind of like our thing. So like I said, my thing, Sheets and Forms. But that's where we get a lot of most of the questions, and most of the TCs focus on those types of things because we get questions from, hey, how do I do this? Which you can do this in, Excel, or how do I do this in Google Sheets? But also, hey, I think something's broken. How do we fix it? Which is probably some of the more fun stuff, but I'll get into that in a little bit. So,
yeah, absolutely. And let me just also say, and I don't know if this is true in your forum, and I wanted to ask you because I ask every TC that I get in here with, do you find a lot of times, if we can't actually get a resolution or we know it's something that's not either available or something like that, giving feedback? Everybody knows me as the feedback guy. Do you see that as well? I mean,
yeah. So that's like the main thing we say is always give in-app feedback, because as much as people will go out there and say, "Oh, Google doesn't listen to us," they do. And the main way that Google gets their feedback is through that in-app, feedback option. So teams are constantly looking at that stuff, but what they're not doing is responding to it. One, because they get just a ton of volume of it, but also that's just Google's way of doing things is they don't generally respond to feedback, depending on what it is. Won't talk about things that are coming in the future, and I think it's good that they do this because people will create these expectations of, hey, you said we were going to have this feature coming when, and it doesn't happen because there's so many things that can happen that can keep something from coming. It's just complex products, but give feedback. That's what we tell everybody to, and we have canned responses on the forums. And,
I'm glad to hear that it's consistent across across forums, because the biggest thing is it's okay to give us feedback inside the forums. That's fine, but it's real important while you're using that particular app to give feedback there, because it's more directed toward that particular thing. Everybody thinks that is giving feedback in the forums. I just want to distinguish between the two as well.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to docs too, it's also a little bit, it's a little bit different of how feedback actually gets to the product teams, because like docs, for example, has a lot of different customers. You have Google Apps customers who are paying customers, and then you have the normal people who are, like us, who aren't paying for it, but everybody has their own feature requests and everybody's giving feedback, and so Google has to prioritize these things that they're getting, and sometimes something that seems so hot right now may not be so hot in 3 or 4 months when it actually comes out, but that ends up how long it takes for things to come out. But
yep, absolutely.
It's a little bit different from other products where there's so many different streams coming in, and they also, Google uses these products themselves, so they have their own their own Googlers are constantly complaining about things too, of, hey, we want these types of features, and so that has to get into the prioritized stream too. Not saying that gets prioritized over anything else, but that there's just a lot of different streams of stuff coming in.
Yep, absolutely. All right, we're 6 minutes in, 7 minutes in. Why don't you go ahead and get rock and rolling? This is really cool, guys. You guys, this is kind of a special night because Ted's going to do something a little cool and a little different, and I'm going to let him talk about that and what he's about to do.
Sure. So what I'm going to do is kind of do a day in the life of a TC and how I approach the forums, and really my purpose is what is the best way to ask a question so that you can get the most immediate feedback. Now, I'm not saying that the way that I approach it is the way that everybody approaches it, but this is kind of how I approach it, so I just kind of wanted to give everybody an idea of what I think about when I do this. So I'm going to share my screen. I can find
and I'll switch to me real quick while you're switching screens and everything. But yes, one thing that's really cool also is being able to, while you're in these forums too, you're going to see how he goes in and what he's going to do. I'm not sure if you're going to actually ask a question, but you're going to probably pull up a question. But that's one thing you can do too, is learn right here. Hey, what am I going to do? Each forum is different in some of the requirements. They make you say, like, this is a Windows machine and that kind of thing too. Go ahead, Ted. I'll let you go.
Yeah, so I'll actually go through that too. So the first thing I'm going to start at, this is the Google Docs Help Forum. I know you were showing earlier kind of where all the forums kind of start, but if you just Google Docs Help Forum, this is what you'll find. It lands on this page to really try to help you find your answers without actually asking the question, because a lot of questions really have already been answered, and it's just how can we find them better? Or how can we answer them better so that you can get the answer that you need without having to do a ton of searching. We rely a lot on Google search finding the right thread for you, so you don't have to click through a bunch of things, but sometimes it's fun to kind of go on the forums, see what people are talking about. I don't start looking at the forums from this page because this shows every single thread that's out there, and we get so many posts that I only focus on posts that have not been answered by what we call an authoritative response. So another TC like myself, a rising star, a Googler, or a question that's been marked as best answer. So when you're looking at the forums here, you can see this has 13 posts. This little star over here means a rising star has been involved in this, so this isn't something that I would look at. Some other icons over here, you see this green one, that means a top contributor has responded. And then this platinum one means a platinum top contributor has responded. So some of us are platinum top contributors. It's a new level that Google's put out that, at least in our forum, it's gone to more tenured TCs. And they're more focused on different, functions that you specialize in the TC program. So my platinum top contributor designation is a creator. So I create lots of things that help people, whether it's templates or doing videos like this. But there's different types of those. So if you see that icon, it's a new icon, but that's what that means. It's also it's just a TC.
Yeah, and mine. Just to add, mine is actually a mentor. I'm a mentor of new people coming in and things like that, because that's kind of where I specialize. So I have that platinum, but mine is for mentor. His is for creator. Just so it's all one thing, platinum, but that's how you differentiate some of the things.
Yeah. Then over here, the G means a Googler has responded. So generally, that's our community manager. Doesn't post a whole lot, but sometimes they will. And sometimes engineers will get on there too to kind of hang out on the forums and talk to some people. Then there's this. I'm not sure how many other products have this, but this is an expert. They are a Googler, but they're people that are employed by Google that are mostly community moderators. So they're not necessarily answering questions in details like we are, but they're helping moderate the forums and maybe moving posts around or helping prioritize things. Basically moderators. So let's see if there's anything else. Oh, and then this one. So this means answered. This means that somebody asked a question, it got a good answer, and somebody, whether it be a TC or the person who posted the question, has said, hey, my question's been answered, and the thread pops up to the top. So I'm just going to click on this one real quick to show you. So yeah, so see here, this was marked as best answer by Lance. Lance is a TC, and Spencer's answer, he's a rising star. That's this, got poked to the top. So I'm not going to get into this thread as to why that was picked that, but you'll see here's all the replies, and then whichever one was Spencer's best answer, looks like it was this one, gets popped up to the top. So just basic navigation when you're looking at the forums, what you're seeing. But like I said before, this is not how I approach it. Oh, this one here, this means it's been escalated. People probably can't see this if you're not a TC or rising star, but we have a way that we can escalate certain posts that put them in like a private subforum that are only available to TCs and rising stars to discuss the question outside of the forum. So there's lots of little things that are going on behind the scenes when people are asking questions. So I'll talk about in Docs, for example, we have a Hangouts chat that has all the TCs in it. So we have representation for pretty much all over the world. So there's always people talking about things. And if we see a post on there that we know somebody might be able to answer better than us, we'll go out and post a thread there. So just a lot of things going on that people don't know about, but I think it's pretty cool.
Ted, let me ask you, are you going to talk about the search at the top? If you are, yeah. I'm not going to interrupt or anything then.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Well, why don't you go ahead and talk about the search?
Well, just real quick, search at the top. One thing that's nice about the search at the top, if you want to try and find out an answer, there may already be an answer out there. So search for that. And then what I look for then, once I've searched for my topic, like he's doing a Google query function, and he hits search. Once he does that, or whatever, for whatever he's looking for, then I immediately, if I'm searching for this, I go look for the ones that are answered. There they are, because they've been answered. So my resolution, I might not even have to put a question in there. So that's one of the things as a user, that's what I go do. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So one of the things also that TCs do when we're moderating is if we see a question that we know has already been answered, we may not even respond to it, and we will just mark it as a duplicate. And so when we do this, it sends an email to the person who submitted the question saying, hey, your question's been marked as a duplicate. Here's the thread that it's been linked to. And so it should answer your question. You can just click on the link from your email and take you right to the answer for it. So it also will lock your thread, so you won't be able to ask it again. But if you need to ask it again because it didn't answer your question, you would just go ahead and post a new topic. Speaking of posting a new topic, I'll kind of walk through that real quick. So anywhere on the forums, you'll see this red new topic button. You can click on there, and this is where you start to ask your question. So question here, I would just say, my question is about Google Sheets. And that's kind of like the subject, and then here you would kind of type all the content that you want to type. You have some things down here you can do, such as some formatting. You can insert an image, links, attachments.
Add a screenshot. I think that's so important. Add a screenshot. It helps us a bunch.
Yep. And then all these things over here are categories. So these are all required. So when you're filling out your question, you have to kind of tell us some things about it. So, sheets, are you asking how to? There's an issue, you want to share an idea. And then this is really important when it comes to troubleshooting. We got these things added to the categories because we were always asking users, hey, we need to know this information so we can help troubleshoot what's going on and give you some steps, because sometimes these things are different depending on the operating system that you're using it on, and same with the internet browser. But so then once you do that, you can just click, I don't know where the button is, right hand here, post, and then it'll post to the forums. Always keep this checked. Email me discussion activities. So what'll happen is when somebody answers the question, you'll get an email, so you don't have to go on there and keep checking your post to see if you've gotten help. And then you would just
real quick.
follow
I want to put up a comment real quick because it's kind of cool and it's pertaining and this is good. It says, yes, sir. As a user, that's what I do first. Search option. Michael, he was just mentioning that. And then Mark Barris says, this is very interesting seeing how TCs select the questions that need answering. Well, that's what we're trying to do today, is trying to help you get an idea of what we're doing. Go ahead, Ted.
Yep. So now I'm going to really get into that, the secret sauce of how do I actually pick a question. So here we go. I can go back and share my screen. So one of the other things you can do in the Google Docs forums or anywhere in the forums is you can search things based on just a bunch of different, like, has the question been answered and all these things. So I've just created a basic filter. And what this filter does is it filters the forum so you can kind of see all the things up here. I really just want to see anything that's been posted after November 30th. So I'm focusing on anything in December. Anything that's not been marked as a duplicate and hasn't been answered, hasn't been responded to, and what's this last part here? And somebody hasn't marked it as can be ignored. So what I'm focusing on here are questions that people have asked that have gotten almost no interaction, because our goal, as TCs, is really want to help as many people as we can in the easiest way. And I'm not going to go out there and start posting on forums or questions that other TCs have, because they're already focusing on those users. They may pull me in to say, hey, I need some help with this, but otherwise I'm going to be focusing on things that have no interaction with them. So this doesn't really help the user maybe ask the question better, but there's, I guess the other thing is, like talking about before, is that searching before is really going to help you. But when I'm coming to the forums, this is where I'm going first to kind of see. And I'll just start the most recent ones, because Google does look at metrics, and they call it the forum health, about how good are users getting help. So, they have different metrics where they're looking at our questions getting answered, within an hour, within a day, within a month, within the quarter, those types of things. And so I really just want to help people as quickly as possible. So I'll focus on the most recent questions that haven't seen an answer. So right now for me, I'm in the Central Time Zone. It's 7:32. So this looks like the most recent question. So when I'm looking at these, I'll look for ones I know I can answer real quick, just based on the subject. So always write a really good subject for your post. Don't make it really long, but give enough information so that we kind of know what it's about, because you can see in here, I'm not seeing any of the content of the actual post, I'm just seeing the subject. So if you just write, I have a question, it's not really going to get me anywhere. But so this first one, for example, several drawings and images in a note, how to order them by sequence. So when I see this, he says note, I'm thinking he's probably talking about Google Keep. Google Keep also falls in our forums, and I generally ignore them, but we'll just click on this for fun to see what it's about. So yeah, they are using Google Keep. So they're talking about sorting and things in Google Keep. I use Google Keep, but I'm not a expert in it, so I'm going to ignore that one for now.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to answer a couple quick, or just put a couple things up that that the guys are putting up here real quick. Russ Worthington says, when asking a question, should the browser information be included? And I mean, I can answer that one. I mean, anything you can give is better, right?
Yep,
in your
absolutely.
opinion?
Yeah, and at least in the Google forums, that is one of the required questions or kind of categories that you have to provide with your response. So if you tell us that it's in Chrome, TCs are looking at all those little things when they're looking at your post, so they won't ask you, hey, what's your browser and operating system, when you've already provided it. But that definitely helps us when we're replying first. Yeah,
especially if it's ever going to get pushed, or we want to find out more information, why, especially if something's not working or something like that. The other thing is, and Mark put up here, Mark Barra says, great point. Screenshots must save a ton of time. And I just want to reiterate that. Yes, screenshots do, Mark, because a lot of times people are at least I've found this out in answering questions. I will go in and find out that they were talking about on mobile. Well, I don't even use this on mobile, and some things are different on mobile than they are. So if you have a screenshot, that just helps totally on that kind of thing. I don't know if that's the same way with you, Ted, but I really feel that's important. Screenshots can become really helpful.
Yeah, so when it comes to sheets, I would say don't do screenshots. Do an actual sheet. And I'll probably, when we pick one here in a second, I'll show you, I have a canned response that if somebody starts talking about things and getting into details and they haven't shared a spreadsheet, my first response back to them will be, hey, can you share an example sheet so we have some basis of what we're talking about? Because the cool thing about sheets is I can just jump directly into their sheet and collaborate and kind of put some responses on there, or maybe even give them the solution, and then I'll write back into the post saying, hey, I've updated the spreadsheet, here's what I've done, and kind of give a description so that anybody else that's coming back to see this is they can kind of see, okay, here's what Ted did, but then they can actually go into the sheet and see it live of kind of what was going on. So,
oh, that's a great point. I never thought about that, but that's a great idea.
Yep. So with sheets, if you have a situation where it's kind of a, hey, how do I do this? Make sure you have an example sheet. And so we're also very clear about, hey, we don't want to see any personal information. So if when you're making kind of your situation, if you can make it generic or kind of use animals or favorite foods, things that don't use real people's names or addresses or any protected information, and kind of make it an example. But make it your structure the same, because when I'm responding and I'm giving solutions, I'm always trying to make them generic so that you can apply it to your situation. And if it's kind of not exactly your situation, then we'll kind of run into trouble. So just something to think about. Now, this is specific to Sheets. You can do the same thing with slides and docs, but generally those are kind of, there's not a lot of, hey, I can go in and actually work on your document to kind of help you what it's doing. Screenshots generally will work better for the other apps.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll kind of go to the next one. This is docs. I don't really do docs, so I'm just going to ignore that one. This one looks like spreadsheets, so we'll click on it and see what they want to do here. Okay, so add a column if two other columns are unique. All right, so I'm having trouble adding a column if two others are unique. Someone can help me with this. So this person hasn't shared a spreadsheet, but they kind of gave an example of what they're looking for. So I have two columns. I want to add example below so that all the BVs, yeah, so this is getting a little complicated. I probably won't go ahead and do this one.
Because it's probably going to need an extensive formula. So
yeah, there may be an extensive formula, and I might have to think about it a little bit. I know we kind of have a little bit of time, or don't have that much time, so I don't want to. Because so that's the other thing with Sheets. A lot of the questions I may spend 2 hours on just one question because it's so complicated. But when I'm looking for those types of questions, it's kind of like, okay, I know what I'm working on. It's probably going to help a lot of people because they're doing something similar. And so if I can spend those 2 hours, yeah, it's one post, but the amount of people that are actually going back and looking at that post and getting help is much better than kind of answering these one-on-one questions. So, another thing to think about strategies of how do you help users? Do you focus on just volume, or do you try to do proactive things? I know with Docs and Sheets, we try to look at kind of what are the topics people are posting about, and kind of what can we do to keep people from asking questions and getting help quicker? Because really that's our goal. Our goal isn't really to answer as many questions as we can. It's to get people help. So whether that's just different ways to do that. So let's keep going here. Building a custom tracking sheet, need help, please. So a lot of words here, but hey, this person gave us a spreadsheet, so that's good. So the more detail you can give is generally good. If I have more time, this is going to help, give you a response in one response as opposed to having to go back and forth and getting a lot of different information. So I'd say this is a very well-written question. They shared a sheet, so just to kind of show this, I can click on the link, and they've shared it correctly, and kind of here is some information about the sheet, and I can just directly edit this. So.
Yeah, and you can tell it's probably based off his original sheet, but what's nice about this is that he didn't use any of that original information. He just saved it, so he just put one data thing in there, just kind of an example, which is great, exactly what you were talking about.
Yep. So let's see if we can find a quick one here. Display list of active sheets. So another thing, we get a lot of this of people asking questions of scripts. So one of the things that you can do with Google Sheets is write, scripts that do things in automatic ways. And the Google Help Forum for Google Sheets is actually the official one for using scripts and stuff is actually on Stack Overflow. So I'm not going to respond to this one for real, but I'm just going to kind of show what I would do here. Oops.
I've got to put this up right now because Sheila, who's a good friend of mine, she puts up there. She's anytime I talk about formulas and stuff, she just says "stop it." So I'm gonna put that up there, and then she immediately responded with, "That was for Michael." So I had to put that up there. But and let me tell you what, to me, script is like the way she feels about formulas. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I know some things enough to be dangerous and kind of read what's going on, but I try to focus on how can I give people solutions using, the tools and capabilities that are available in Google Sheets. And yeah, script's available. You can do anything with the script, but why do it with a script when I can do it with a formula?
I agree. That's great. Great point.
But so one of the things I have canned responses built. One of them is about AppScript. So
now keep in mind, once you become, and I just want to clarify with everybody, once you become a rising star and a top contributor, then you can add canned responses. So you can't add any canned responses ahead of time unless you're a top contributor.
Yeah, and somehow I just edited their post.
Interesting.
Hold on, I gotta fix this. What is going on? Maybe it. Okay, it fixed it. Anyway, so what I was gonna say just before is that the official forum for getting the best answers about scripts and where people are doing script type things is on Stack Overflow, which most people who are developers, that's kind of where really for any code base or any type of code that people are doing, that's where they go to get help. So you can ask the questions on the Google Sheets forum. We do have TCs that know a lot about scripts, and sometimes they will be able to help directly on here. But if you want to get real script help quickly, there's a lot more people. May not be TCs on the Stack Overflow, but that's kind of the place to go. So I'm just going to ignore that. Let's see. How do I sum a row of numbers and letters? So this is good. Here's a really good question. How do I do this? Gave a little bit of information about it. They told us the formula that they're trying to use. They gave us a little visual representation of their spreadsheet. And yeah, so this is a complicated formula type thing. I'm not going to use what's called regular expressions. I'm not going to answer this one because this might take some time too. Come on, guys, let's find an easier one here.
Yeah, give me all hard ones tonight.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've noticed now that Google has been having these Google experts, people helping moderate, that they're kind of focusing on some of the lower level questions, and we're getting a lot more harder questions that take a lot of time. So we may not find anything, but I have one kind of hidden in the background that we can use if we get to that point. Device won't open forms. That's not surprising. There's been some issues with that. Uh-oh, Galaxy S7. Let's see. Another thing we do is, sometimes you may somehow get to the Google Docs help forum. Sometimes we see questions, people just asking most random stuff. If I know the answer to it, I'll respond to it, but we can also move posts between forums. So you may see your post get moved to another forum that's a little bit more applicable to your question. But generally the people will respond and say, hey, I'm moving your post to the Google Hangouts forum because that's where this should be, and you'll get better help there.
Yeah, and we get that quite often, like because Gmail and Hangouts is in Gmail, but Hangouts is also on YouTube. So a lot of times, if it's a direct question for a Hangouts, it'll get moved into ours, or if it's more toward a YouTube question, we'll move it over there with what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's look at this one. Unable to access Google Documents anymore. Hi, impossible to access Google Docs in my Google Doc account. I can go to Gmail, but not Docs. It tries to open Drive, but hangs forever. Okay, so this doesn't really sound like a Google Docs issue. It could be an issue with their service provider.
Browser, internet connection,
yeah,
anything.
A lot of things. So I'm just going to ignore that one for now. Okay, so I'm just going to stop going to this, and I'm going to pick the one I picked earlier just to so we can dig into one here. But just kind of recap in general, this is how I focus on what I'm looking at. I'm looking for questions that haven't been answered yet. That are focused on sheets and that give me some really good information in order to quickly answer the question, or at least I can start building kind of how I would respond in my head as I'm reading through it and know that, yep, I can do this in a certain amount of time. It also kind of depends on how much time I have. If I'm going to sit here for an hour, I may just focus on really quick to answer, no formula writing unless it's a really easy thing. But if I have 2 or 3 hours, I might find a more complicated one and kind of dig into it. I was really hoping we would find one like that, but looks like there's a lot of weird stuff. It's also, I don't know, where I am right now, 7:45 p.m., a lot of the TCs have probably already been digging through things, and you can see we're down to 11 about noon today, so they probably have seen these and maybe ignored them as well. I'm trying to write a formula that will do. Okay, so this is complicated. They already tried something. So here's another thing we also get a lot. Hey, I did this in Excel, and it works fine, but maybe it doesn't work in Google Sheets. Google Sheets does things a little bit differently than Excel. I really push people away from saying that Google Sheets is an online version of Excel. There's just the way they handle things is a whole lot different. Sheets primarily it only lives on the web, and so it can kind of take advantage of some things differently than Excel would, where Excel lives on your computer. And Microsoft has their own version of Excel online, but it's much different, and I think it's not as good as Google Sheets. But that's one thing that we also try to do is help people, hey, this works in Excel, but how do I get it to work in Sheets? Because it's one more user that's using Sheets, not Excel. Not that I use Excel all the time. There's nothing against Excel, but I love Google Sheets, and I want to evangelize for Sheets as much as I can. So yeah, let's see. Add new row. This should be an easy one. Is there a script? Okay, I have to write a script for that. Portfolio trailing stop. So sometimes, all right, here we go. Building a simple portfolio tracker. Okay, price. So there's a formula in Google Sheets called Google Finance, where you can pull information from Google Finance into Google Sheets, but it's kind of buggy and really old, and I try to stay away from those questions because the answer generally comes to, yeah, Google Finance we know is kind of buggy and you can't quite rely on it 100% all the time, because a lot of the times what people are kind of saying, hey, it's not working, it'll just start randomly working one day. Known issue. Maybe they'll get some information going on it soon, but I haven't seen anything in a long time about it. Some weird stuff today. Let's see. Error message when accessing drive. Let's see what this is about. A lot of reasons for this. The file could have been deleted. There could actually be a server error. Not real sure. Google Finance request. I don't know that language. All right, well, Michael, is it okay if I go to a different question that I have?
Yeah, please do. While you're going to that different question, Michael Thomas says, will they ever be updating Google Finance, Ted? I guess he uses it, so.
Yeah, so I don't know. It worked really well for a while before with the old Google Sheets, and when they redid some things with the new Google Sheets, it doesn't work as well with the newer Google Sheets. When I say new Google Sheets, it's like 2 or 3 years old now, so maybe not that new. But the issue with Google Finance is a whole other team supports Google Finance, and it just worked much better before and doesn't work as well now. I'm not sure if that's something that is going to work much better in the future. So I don't know. I don't think they'll get rid of the function completely unless they move to another version of Sheets where it's 100% no longer supported, or maybe they make huge changes to Google Finance itself, and that just doesn't really, they have to rewrite some code to get it to work with Sheets.
Okie doke. Yeah. So on to your one that you want to do, right?
Yeah. So this was a question I saw, I guess, 2 or 3 days ago. And this person, Skydiver Goose, had a spreadsheet, and they're tracking workout numbers. And so they're trying to make like this competitive workout thing. So they kind of gave some, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. And look, so they wrote it out in English, which is really great when you can write out what you want your function to do just in normal English, because I can generally translate that pretty easily to a function. So this guy's saying if the highest integer is in C6 through G6, so that's a range, print the contents of whatever's in cell A1 and put it in I6. So that's something I can understand and easily do. But what I wanted to show is the first thing I did was, I knew I wanted to show this guy kind of how to do this in a spreadsheet. So sometimes I make spreadsheets for people and I just share them on the thread, but I asked this guy to do it. So this is a canned response that I have, links out to another thread about sharing a sample sheet, but then it just kind of gives you the instructions for how to do this. I also do this because sometimes other TCs will come on and be able to answer the question, just because that's kind of how they approach the forums. And so if they have a sample spreadsheet out there, they can get to it quicker. So they said, yep, here's a spreadsheet. So editable test template. We'll see what this actually looks like. I haven't looked at it yet. And so here's what we want to do. So I'm going to click on his link. Okay, so this looks like his actual sheet, but that's okay. It looks like workout numbers. Looks like these guys are working out. All right. So also normally what I do is if somebody has this is their spreadsheet, I'm going to make a copy of their tab and just rename it with my name on it so they know, hey, yep, this is the one that Ted touched and that I didn't actually mess up their original stuff, because sometimes I'll get down the rabbit hole and I'll completely break everything, and you don't want to do that. So I'm going to be making all my updates on fit test J. I don't know why that ended up as J. I was trying to type Ted J. Okay, because that's me. All right, so going back to the thread, oops. So search cell ranges C6 through G6. So let's see what he's talking about here. C6 through, okay, so he's talking about this direction. So print the contents of cell A1 in box 6 if the highest integer. Okay, so what they're trying to do, he wants it in I6, is that what he said? A1 and I6, okay. Oh, this might be a little bit harder to do. Search cells for the highest integer. Okay, so they're trying to find, okay, well, we can see if this will work. So basically they want to find the highest number in column C. So we'll see if this works. It may not work because, what is that? Oh, it's a date. So basically what I was looking at right there was, well, if I want to find the max column or the max value of column C, I can write that function there, max CC. It's going to look through all of C, but we get different types of data in column C. So we got this date and this number here. And so when computers look at number or dates, they're just numbers, and that's what it ends up being. So we're not going to be able to do it like that. So let's go back and read this here. So C6. So I'm guessing there's probably going to be more numbers in here. I don't know this is confusing. Fit test day 1. These have different dates on them. C6 through G6, C20 through G20. So I'm probably just going to end up, I may just kind of rebuild this for him, but we're going to give him an exact answer based on what he's looking for. So we're going to do, man, this is going to be hard, guys.
Yeah, that's what you find out a lot of times when you're helping people out with certain things there, that you start to start building a rabbit hole because things start happening. You're like, oh, I got to search in this, then I got to search in this, then I got to figure out this. So yeah, it can get kind of hairy.
Yeah, because basically what this guy wants to do is he wants to put the person's name over here who has the most, that have, like, say here, who's done the most switch kicks in this fit test day 1 thing. So is it Mal, Jane, or Wash? And basically we have to check all these cells to see who it is, and then we got to find which one it is, and then find the corresponding value up here. So this starts getting in, like, yeah, we know 48's the highest, but then how do we tell it, okay, well, we want A1 in that case? Because maybe it's not going to be 48 next time, it's going to be this one. We still have to grab it here. So really what I would do to make this easier is this is where we start getting into like data structures and how do you structure a spreadsheet to do what you want it to do.
But you could do add it. I mean, find in the list of where there's not the word date. You could do that, right? Like in the A column, anywhere where doesn't have the word date, then look in the C and then do this function.
Yeah, I guess. So I think that would work, but I think the situation is actually the opposite, because we kind of have to find.
Oh, I got you.
We have to find what the next value is and kind of figure out what section of the spreadsheet's that on.
I got you.
So we could make a helper sheet for this, but since we're digging through this and going through my mind, we may get lost a little bit, but let's just see what we do here. So what I'm going to do with this helper sheet is I'm going to try to pull in, I'm assuming their structures are going to change, so I'm going to pull in these numbers over to this sheet. So we know we're going to do the switch kicks. Okay. And we know that this goes with, we know these numbers are here. Okay, oops. What happened here? Oh. Also, the hard part about this is, doing this live is harder because sometimes I'll take a lot of time and I'll get through it halfway and be like, oh, this isn't the right way to do it, and kind of have to start over. So I'm hoping I don't get to that point with this, but if it happens, it happens, and this is live television.
And it's a good way for people to see what you have to go through and what we go through and how much extent we take in trying to help answer some of the questions that people put out there. I mean, we really put a lot of thought. We don't just flippantly put something out there, and I think that's the key thing.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to do here is make a helper sheet. See, I just don't know if dates are going to come into play with this. This may be one where we kind of just do this for fun here on the Hangout, but I don't actually give this to the user because it's probably...
Yeah, I hear you. And Michael Thomas says, I think it's a progression sheet with dates and results, Ted. He was just kind of giving you something there. That's what Michael Thomas says. And then Lon says, Lon puts out there, he says, really begs a database setup with the user provided structure as a final display versus entry form.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I think, where I'm going here is I was kind of trying to build it more like a database so that I can hunt for these numbers. Because I'm going to show you kind of how I'm going to do this once why did that not work? Where do we get 20? Fit test head JB20. Oh, because it's in C. So we'll get this going real quick, and then we'll A15. So you can't see this, but I'm hitting Shift or F4. It's a hotkey to lock a cell. It's kind of fun. So this is always pointing at A15. Normally, if you're in a sheet and you type in like say I type in, I don't know, like A2, and I start dragging it down, it drags with me. So this is like A2, A3, A4. And if you don't want to do that, you have to put $signs around it. And you can do that real quick by hitting F4. So you can see there's the $signs around A15, and so it's always A15. All right, so we got one more here, switch kicks. So I think this is going to end up being a query result, so this will be fun. Queries are fun.
Yeah, they are. It's hard to get them to work, but once they work, it's just like magic. It really is.
Yeah, so I hope I can get this one to work so we can see the magic of it, because this will be a perfect magic situation here.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody's...
Lon mentions the F4 tip. Oh, my God. I live by F4. Trust me, I do.
So I'm going to just write a query here for this whole section. And what I'm going to try to do is just show for each of these exercises, I guess that's what they are. I want to find what the max value is for each of them. So in the world of writing, you can write kind of SQL type things. I'm going to select A because I want to get that.
Those of you that don't know what SQL is,
oh, good call.
Go ahead.
SQL is like a language that you use to talk to a database, and it's somewhat more Englishy than anything else. So basically, what I'm writing is the first part of SQL is generally a select statement. You're trying to tell the database what you want to actually select. So in this case, I'm going to select A, which is column A, and then I want the max value of B. But when we use max or any type of function with a column, we have to kind of group our values. So I'm not even going to get into that, but we're going to group by B. And we're going to see what happens. We got an error. Why did that happen? Oh. I'm not grouping by B, I'm grouping by A. All right, so this is kind of cool. So here we go. It's showing what our max values are. And what I'm going to, so this is kind of a cheeky thing that I'm going to do. I want to pull in the name with this. I don't know if I can do that with the query. Let's try it. Might not work.
You should be able to.
I don't think I can do it because, actually, let's see. There it is. No, so what's happening is, so it's pulling in every single thing because I added the C to it. And we have to group by it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a VLOOKUP here. Maybe there's a better way to do it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up this and this here. I'm going to do F4 again. We're going to grab the third. Oh, because I have to make a key. So basically what I do is I kind of just made like my own little database here real quick and kind of created a key for it. So what I can do is I wrote a query here that really is just looking at B through D, finds the max value for each of these categories and brings it back. And then what I did here for the key is I just combined whatever is in column B and C. And then I just looked up that value based on what I found over here. So we find globe jumps. 11 is mal, so that's all working. So really this is what the guy's trying to do. I'm just not sure how this is going to change once we get more days added. Which really what we'd have to do is we just create another column, put the day in there, and then we'd be able to kind of run the query the same way, but we'd just look for specific days in the data instead of just...
Does he want those per day? Is that what he wanted?
Well, see, I don't know, because in the question he says, hey, I want to look through C6 through G6, which means...
Yeah, so he's looking at group data. Yeah, he's looking at group data, so...
So he's like looking for the max value here, and then here, and then here. finding what it is and then figuring out who it is. So normally this is you need a database to really do it. I'm sure if we sat here for a while, we could write a function that would do it, and it would get pretty crazy. But yeah, I'd really want to kind of transform what he's doing. So normally how this would work, like let's say we were building an app to do this, is you'd build an interface to collect the data. So in like Google Forms, and we would create a form that says, hey, pick your date, pick your exercise, and then your name, and then how many you did. And so that would be submitted to a Google Sheet, which would kind of like be our little database, and then we could create reports and all types of things kind of based on what the data looks like. What's happening here is the guy's trying to do it backwards, which is okay if people, sometimes he's probably thinking, oh, I can just share the sheet with everybody, and they can come in and kind of type in, whatever they're doing, and it'll be easy. Oh, it looks like there's some conditional formatting. But I don't know, just different ways of doing things. I would turn this around at the guy and I'd say, hey, let's build a form to collect this data, and then we can kind of work through building a spreadsheet based on the form that is like your little dashboard for it. So you have one link that goes to submit the data, and then you can have another link that goes that everybody who's involved with it can kind of see what's going on as a dashboard. So I know we're at 8:06. I don't know if you want to open up for questions or kind of do anything.
Yeah, because we're about the 51-minute mark. So yeah, absolutely. Let's open it up. If anybody has any questions, I will bring up. Meanwhile, I will go ahead and bring up some questions that I had already starred before people could come in and that kind of stuff. So let's put some of this stuff up and see what some people were saying. Some of it's just complimenting and everything else. It says, gee, I'll be able to watch live. Usually have my own BHOA at this time. Cool. Thank you. You're welcome, Russ. No problem. We go to Monica, and she says, hello, landed in here in order to register. Any steps more? Nope. You're registered, Monica. And I know she's across seas and stuff. So it's kind of cool for her to try and get in and that kind of stuff. And here's one of your compatriots, I guess. James Waller.
Oh, James, yeah.
Let me see if I can get him. Hold on. See if I can get that to come up. It says, I'm a TC on Google Sheets forum and thought this could be interesting, and who knows, I may be able to contribute. Just hope I don't forget. Well, looks like he forgot. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, James is great. He's also does a lot of sheet stuff, and he does a really good job with building templates for people, and he likes to do a lot of proactive things too. So you'll kind of see some of his posts sometimes about, hey, I did this, come check it out. He's also recently done some more themed things, like using sheets, just showing kind of fun stuff. He's done some crosswords and search and finds and some fun stuff. So yeah, James is great if you see him on the forums. He has
actually answered quite a few questions for me in the forum as well. So here's another one Heather put earlier, talking about when I was talking about feedback. Yes, feedback is listened to, and it is good for you to tell them when something is not working as expected and when you want a feature added. And even more, I'll be honest with you, I think they enjoy the feedback that gives them, hey, listen, thanks for adding this. This worked for me or something. And, send that as well.
Yep, for sure.
And Mark Maris said, so Google Keep support can be found in the Docs help forum, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep, that is correct. And Miss Sheila, she did say, so I can ask in plain English about a formula, encouraging when you were talking about ask as many questions in real English. Yep.
Yeah, because most of the time, I'm seeing a lot of when people are asking questions about formulas, I think they get a little caught up in trying to write something that's in a formula to help us kind of get them to the answer. And really, if you can write it in English, that's really the best thing, because we'll be able to understand what you're doing much better because we all speak English, and then we can figure out how to translate it for you.
Yes, and let's see. Prima puts up on screen. Let's see what she puts. Anyone know how Form Plus compares to Google Forms? I don't even know what that is. Do you know what that is by chance,
Ted? Form Plus is just another form type of thing. I think it's used with Google Drive. I haven't used it. I try to just use Google Forms because it's directly integrated with Google Sheets. But if there's something you're doing on Form Plus that you're not able to do in Google Forms, or you have a question about it, definitely come to the forums and ask about it, and you'll hopefully find an answer to your question.
So is it one of the add-ons to Google Sheets then?
I'm not sure if it's an add-on, but I think it integrates with Drive. So
okay, I got you.
Quick and see what.
Okay, that's fine. I was just curious. I didn't know if that was the case.
Yeah,
I know that was
some extended features from Google Forms, so you have to pay for it. Though.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so just looking at it real quick, it looks like you do have to pay for this. There is a free plan, but it only gives you 15 responses per month. A cool thing about Google Forms, it's unlimited responses and it's free. So I guess it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. For the most part, Google Forms does what people are asking for. The main thing is the file upload people are asking about, and this has been brought to consumer accounts, Google Apps accounts, but it hasn't quite gotten to normal consumer accounts yet, because there's a lot of security things that kind of go with doing something like that I think they're still thinking through for how to do that for a non-centrally managed owned domain type of situation.
And Lon puts up on a whole big old long thing. I don't know, but I just want to make sure that I mentioned Lon here. But he talks about what the Form Plus and all that kind of stuff. And you can look at that comment to find out more information.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so it looks like it's kind of like a Google Forms type of thing, but it's not built by Google. It looks like it's just built on top of Google Drive using Google APIs and things. So, something to try if that's what you're looking for.
There you go. Miss Sheila's being kind. She says, I so enjoyed the overview of using the forums, and so good to know that Michael, Thomas, and Lon McClure are all so smart. Yay. Yeah, I don't know about all that, but I do know that it is helpful, and I have had many, many questions. That's one thing, too, is that's how I got started in the Top Contributor program, and how they even asked me was I went in asking a lot of questions, end up helping a lot of people. And I actually started helping people in the Sheets area because I do work with Sheets quite often. So I was doing that and then found out that there's, Hangouts. I was like, wow, I do that all the time. Let me go to Hangouts. So I went to Hangouts, and kind of where I fell and answered a whole bunch of stuff, especially with Hangouts on Air, when Hangouts on Air were so popular, which it kind of seems like they're kind of fizzling, sort of. I do want to share real quick a screen with everyone so you guys can see. Let me put myself on screen real quick. Hold on. I want to share this window here. This is something that Ted was kind of talking about. You can also add filters when you're searching for something. If you want to find all the answered questions about this particular thing or in this forum, or you just want to go around and start looking, you can look at all my discussions. Let's say you have a whole bunch of discussions in there and you put in the forum and you want to go look at all of mine. You can just click on that, all of mine, or ones that I started. You can go, one thing that I do as a top contributor, I go into all of the no replies. If there's no replies, that's where I start. I just go in and start digging. Okay, this hadn't been replied to. That's the way I start, because I figure someone else has already helped with something else. That's usually the way I start, and then go take some of Ted's approaches from that point. But that's just something that I do. Not again, and that's what's interesting. That's what's interesting about us coming in and you seeing two different top contributors, the way they apply and go at it when they're going to help people. I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, so I want to add one more thing. I'm going to share my screen real quick, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
So I am going to go ahead and respond to this guy. And I just kind of want to talk about how I respond to people. And one of the things that Google looks like, say you want to become a top contributor someday, or you want to spend the time, one of the things that Google really looks for is a level of Googliness and friendliness in your responses. So I just kind of want to show that, always address the username, whatever they give you. Sometimes they'll give you their real name or whatever, but always address, say, hey, so they know who you're talking to. Thank them for their question. and always kind of make it kind of fun, friendly, provide an idea. But basically what I'm saying is I kind of understand what you're getting at, but let's try to see if we can take another approach, kind of give them what the approach is, see what they think, and that's going to be my response back to them. And so hopefully they'll come back and say, yep, that sounds good, and then we'll kind of start digging into rebuilding this from the beginning, which I don't think it'll take too much work, but I don't want to go ahead and go down that path of doing all that without the user saying, yep, that's what I'm looking for. So that's post.
Very good. Nice. So there's his reply. Wonderful.
Yep. So the user will get an email saying, hey, well, if they're subscribed to it, that they got a response, which I think they are because they responded to me pretty quickly before. And then we'll start going back and forth.
Yep. Thank you, Ted. That was I appreciate it. We're at the hour mark, so I'm going to start wrapping things up. Folks, thanks for coming by. Hopefully this helps people. I'm going to really push this one out there because this one actually showed how we go into the forum as a person looking for answers, and also how we approach it from a top contributor standpoint. A couple different approaches also. So I want to thank everybody for coming by. I really do appreciate it. This is gonna be a good one that I have in my collection. And those of you that want to see other ones in the collection that I have a collection that I have all of the top contributors that I'm trying to just give them a chance to come in and showcase their expertise. So here is the collection. I'll put that in the chat. And everybody, you can just click on that and it takes you right to the collection and subscribe to that collection, or whatever they call it. Subscribe, whatever. I don't know. I'm using YouTube terms, I think. But anyway, you know what I mean. Follow it, learn, and I'm sure I'll do more in the new year. Everybody seems to be loving them, and I appreciate you folks for coming in. You dedicated people that come into just about every one of them. I really appreciate that too. Thank you, Ted, once again.
Absolutely, anytime.
I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
You too.
And I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Unless you have any last point that you want to bring up, I'm gonna go ahead and end it.
Oh, I think I'm good.
Covered it all. And Ted, as long as you're willing, I will have you back again. We'll cover some more stuff with spreadsheets and things like that.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, good. Because I know there are people out there that absolutely just love to learn more. They just don't think they can do it. You know what I'm saying? Spreadsheets can be very intimidating to people, but I know that they want to, and I think that the more we give them a little bit here and a little bit there, that they'll come back to it.
Yep, for sure. I think the gateway to all of this too is don't be afraid to ask a question and kind of show up on the forums and kind of see how it all works. And that's kind of the best place. That's really how I started. Was I ended up on the forums and where I got all my knowledge, and we're 6-7 years later, now I'm on here doing these webinars with you.
Yeah, and I know, and you know what? The last thing I'll say then, you brought up a great point. There's no stupid question either. It doesn't matter how minuscule you think it is. It might be perplex for you, but someone else might think, oh, this is really menial. It doesn't matter. Ask the question. If you ask, there's going to be people out there that'll give you an answer. So,
yep, because we're here to help. We're not here to judge your level of understanding, because we figure if you knew everything, you wouldn't be asking questions either. And we definitely don't know anything either. We're always learning too. So we try to make it a community in that way.
Yep. All right. Listen, thank you so much, folks. Thank you very much for coming. I'm going to wrap this up now, and I'm going to stop the broadcast. Ted, I'll stay in here with you for a second before we end up. But thank you, folks, for coming, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.